You already know what a terminal is, and you know that PowerShell and the Ubuntu terminal are examples of terminals. As a software engineering student, you can use either of these two terminals to practice. You just need to study the differences and understand how to work with whichever terminal you are using. For this course, as the instructor, I will be using the Ubuntu terminal throughout. But even though the tutorials are done with the Ubuntu terminal, students using PowerShell can still follow along. They just need a little guidance so they can stay on the same page. It is not compulsory for you to use the Ubuntu terminal. You can use PowerShell. However, I would strongly recommend the Ubuntu terminal because it is widely used by software engineers all over the world. I understand that some students may find it difficult to install the Ubuntu terminal on their system. Some may be using older laptops that do not support virtualization, while others have laptops that support virtualization but do not know how to enable it in the BIOS settings. Instead of stressing yourself or giving up on the course because of that, you can switch to using PowerShell. PowerShell is supported on all laptops running Windows, whether Windows 10 or Windows 11. When we get to the Ubuntu Terminal series, as a PowerShell user, you need to understand how to approach PowerShell using the ideas you will get from the Ubuntu Terminal series. And that is what this lesson is all about. The first lesson of the Ubuntu Terminal series will teach you how to create a folder that will serve as your workspace where you will be practicing. That folder will be named MyCodes. So, as a PowerShell user, to be able to follow along with the Ubuntu Terminal series when practice is being done inside the MyCodes folder, you also need to create and access that same MyCodes folder in PowerShell. Before I move forward, it is important to note that this lesson is not for those who have already successfully installed the Ubuntu terminal on their laptops. You can just watch for fun without practicing anything here. But those who are unable to install the Ubuntu terminal should study this lesson carefully and practice every step. Let's start by creating the My Codes folder using PowerShell. Let's open the PowerShell app from the desktop. This is the PowerShell interface. We'll be entering some commands. You may not know these commands yet, but just follow along as I enter them. The first step is to leave the System32 directory and go to the home directory. The command for that is cd. So type cd and press enter. Now I am in my home directory. You can see my name here, Adesina Olagunju. On your own laptop, you will see your name or the name of your laptop depending on how your computer is configured. Next, type ls and press enter. This shows the list of contents in the current directory. Our goal is to go to the desktop in PowerShell. You can see that desktop is listed here. So let's enter the command to navigate to desktop directory. Type cd desktop and press enter. Type ls to see the contents of the desktop directory. Now let's create the MyCodes folder from the terminal right here inside the desktop directory. Type the command mkdir space mycodes and press enter. Let's check the contents of the desktop directory again with ls. You can see that my codes folder is now listed here. And if we check the desktop screen in the GUI, you can also see that my codes folder has been created here. We can go into the my codes folder in the terminal by typing cd space my codes. If we check the content of my codes with ls, you can see that it is empty because it is a brand new folder we just created. If we open the My Codes folder in the GUI as well, you can see that it is also empty. Now we have created the My Codes folder, which will be our working space for the entire course. This is exactly what the first lesson of the Ubuntu Terminal series covers, except that it teaches you how to create the My Codes folder in the Ubuntu Terminal, not in PowerShell. This lesson has taught PowerShell users how to do the same thing in PowerShell. That means PowerShell users do not need to practice anything in the first lesson of the Ubuntu Terminal series because this lesson has already covered the PowerShell version of it. However, I strongly recommend that all students watch both this lesson and the first lesson of the Ubuntu Terminal series, regardless of which terminal you use. You just need to practice using the one that applies to you. After the first lesson of the Ubuntu Terminal series, all subsequent lessons use the My Course folder as the practice workspace. So, as a PowerShell user, you need to know how to access My Codes folder in PowerShell each time. To access the My Codes folder in PowerShell, follow these steps. The first step is to open your PowerShell, then type cd and press enter to go to your home directory. The third step is to type ls to see the list of the contents in the home directory. The fourth step is to type cd space desktop to go to the desktop directory. The fifth step is to type ls to see the content of the desktop directory. You can see that my codes is already there. So type cd space my codes and press enter to go into it. Now you are inside the my codes folder, which is your workspace. This is exactly what is done at the beginning of every Ubuntu Terminal series lesson. Going into my course folder before starting practice. But the way it is done in the Ubuntu Terminal is slightly different from how it is done in PowerShell. That is why I showed you how to do it in PowerShell, so you do not get lost while watching the Ubuntu Terminal series. From the second lesson of the Ubuntu Terminal series onwards, this is how Ubuntu Terminal users will be accessing the My Codes folder. This applies to Ubuntu Terminal users only. The steps we covered earlier are for PowerShell users. Notice that there is a dollar sign at the end of MyCodes in the Ubuntu terminal. You will not see that dollar sign in PowerShell.